So first, long-time listener, first-time presenter, so bear with me. Some details about me. So my name's Omar El-Anis, system developer and entrepreneur. There's my GitHub and my kind of blog. So if you want to get in touch with me, feel free to for any of those methods. So first one that I'm going to run through is the tile v2 webpart. This is basically an extension of the awesome webpart that Hugo created in the past that was then merged into the new starter kit. So I basically just took that and made some adjustments to it and updated it to use the icon picker instead of having to go to the web address and select the icon that you wanted, and a few other tweaks as well, just to make it flexible. So what I will do first, I will quickly show you guys how it looks. So this is basically the web part in question. So when you hover over it, it pops up and shows you a description of the web part, and then depending on the size of it, the area that it's in, sorry, it will adjust it to fit into there. So in a smaller one, using the flex, it will set that one because it's larger than the area to a full size one. And again, depending on the screen, it will basically just adjust it as you're kind of moving it along different area sizes. So updating it, basically it uses a collection data set, which you can update in here. So you click on configure the tiles. Then you've got the option to set the title, the description, they get shown when you hover over it, and a link. And then, so this is part of the new bit, which is where you select the icon. So by clicking that, you basically get a list of all the icons that you can select from. So let's say if I was to add in a new one here, and then I can choose, let's go for a happy face. And you can choose if it opens in a new tab or inside the current one. And then you can see that's added that in there for me. And again, if I move this down, you'll see now there's room for more than one tile there. So instead of it being full, it will just pop them next to each other's, and it will kind of keep moving on and doing that. It does work in Teams as well, but it is a little bit glitchy. So that's not currently being advertised. But you can add it in by manually adding the app in. You have to sideline it. It doesn't work for the SharePoint app catalog. I'm not sure why. I haven't got that far. The glitchy bit at the moment is you'll see it kind of like jumps a bit, which I haven't had a chance yet to look at. Something for the future. But that is also a cool thing that you can do with SPFX as well. So that's kind of oh, sorry, I forgot to show you these bits. So you can also adjust the size of the tiles. If you go too far, you might end up squashing the text, but that's your preference to just adjust that using the slider bar. You can also set it either to inherit the theme from the site, or if you wanted, you can adjust that to manually choose whatever colors you needed in there, as well as the font. That looks ugly, but you guys hopefully get the idea. And then you've got your tiles there for people to use. So kind of moving along to the code bit. As I said, most of this was done by Hugo, so I can't take credit for it. Just small bits that have kind of been added in. So the key bit inside the code, which allows us to do the tile picker, is down here inside the property pane configuration, which is the property pane that pops up on the right-hand side when you're configuring it. So inside our collection data, which is where we're holding all the details, so the title, description, the URL, the icon, this is the bit. There was a new feature. I'm not sure exactly when it was released, but you can now add in custom elements essentially that you can build yourself, or if it's already built, as is the case with the icon picker one, you can use that, and that information is available on the PnP SPFX website. So this bit here, the property field collection data, you scroll down to the bottom, it actually explains how you can do the custom field rendering, which is what I've used there. And we'll see that again in the hero webpart in a minute. But it allows you to basically render your own elements in there, so you're not restricted to the ones that are available out of the box. So basically inside here, all we're doing is then creating an icon picker, which is, again, an element available from PnP. it won't be in this bit, so I'll skip that for now. And basically just selecting the file, storing it inside there for the icon name, and then passing that through. So when we then render, where is it? So then when we come to render the actual elements inside here, we are going to pass that through the collection data as a property. So this will essentially then call this one here, which will go through the collection data set that we've got, and as long as it's not empty, it uses the map function to then iterate through these and create a tile element using that data that we've retrieved from there. That then basically in turn calls this component, tile, which is where it does the magic to actually create the tiles, set the color, and populate the information inside it. So you'll see, for example, for the color stuff, if they've selected in the property screen at the beginning to use a custom color, then it will set the color based on whatever was chosen before. If it's set to use not have a custom color, then it will just use the theme color instead. All of this can be customized and changed to whatever is needed afterwards. Similar again for the font size, for example, when using the slider, that's basically set here. So if you've used the slider, it will set the font size for you. You can see the styling done, which is inside here. Somewhere. Is it this one? Is it this one? Yeah. So for the flex, basically, you can see how that's being done inside here. So you've got it set to flex and to wrap. Again, this can all be changed, so you can update it to whatever is needed from there. That hopefully I think kind of covers the tile one. So I'll answer any questions if there are any at the end, but I'll move on to the hero one, which is this one here. So the hero one, basically, I had quite a few projects where I wanted something similar to the out-of-the-box hero web part that's available, but I wanted to be able to customize it and display stuff in different views, etc. So as a result of that, I thought, well, the next best thing is to kind of build my own version of it. So that's where this web part kind of comes into play, which I'll show you here. So this is the hero web part, and what it does is it will display a number of different pictures that you select, which I'll show in a second, and it will show them in a grid view like this, similar to the out-of-the-box one. It will readjust depending on the size of the area. If it's really small, advisable not to use too many because it will kind of squash it in. But basically, the way that this one works, so if I go to edit it, so we can set a title if you want, and it will pop up on top. So, and then using a similar concept to the tiles one, we've got the option to manage the data that we're going to put in there. So you can choose the title, which is displayed in white when you're just viewing it, and it will display it when you hover over. And then you have the description field as well, which is just this bit here. And then you can choose what link to open when somebody clicks on that. And then you've got the option to select the image, basically. This can be changed so that you can actually include upload files if you want, which I'll cover in a bit, but I've not implemented that functionality. So for now, for the one that's available, it's stock images to use, basically. But there's a whole host of images that you can select from. So it's just a case of selecting an image, clicking on insert, and that's it. So that image, sorry, let me actually create one. So if my new item, let me try that again. My new item. One thing I've noticed with the property panels, it's similar with the search one as well. When you're in here, if you click out or accidentally press Control Z instead of Control C, it knocks it out. So something I try and be careful of. Anyway, so I'll go in, choose an image. Let's do some nice carrots. And then click add and save. And then if I save this, we should then have this show up as now. That's now got my new image that I added in there a second ago inside there as well. You can remove them quite easily. So if I didn't want the my role one, I could just get rid of that. I'm not sure if I've published the latest one. This should be automatically updating as I'm making these changes. So I might need to double check. I might not have uploaded it to the app catalog yet, but that should actually update as I'm making these changes. So I shouldn't have to keep pressing save every time. But anyway, so as you can see there, that's now got my new carrot inside there as well. The other option that you can choose to do is to show more courses than 5. So if it's off, you won't see the pagination option. If you switch it to on, you'll see the option to go through the list of available items. So if there's more than 5 items in there, that will show you a list, and you can scroll through them. You can also then, if you want, hide the back button and the forward button. That's basically all that those kind of bits do in there. That, I think, covers that bit, hopefully. So I'll move on to the code side of it, which is just here. So this is using a lot of PnP controls to do this. Specifically, just showing in a second the file picker element. So again, we're using a collection data set to do this, and a custom one, which was basically going to import the file picker, which then allows us to select the stock image and then to save that, the image details inside the collection data set. So if I scroll down, so we've got the standard render element. This will send through all the information that's being selected on the property screen. So the collection data, which is that bit just there. So as long as it exists, it will send the collection data. Otherwise, it will just send a blank element. The show all hero is if you've selected to show all the items, not just the 5, and then that basically is what enables the pagination option. And again, these are kind of self-explanatory. They hide the first page and last page. And if it is paginated, which is again related to the pagination option. So moving down, we've got the property pane configuration window, which is where we're pulling in the information that we want to retrieve from it. So the key bit is the collection data, that bit right there. So then we've got the title that we've seen, the description, the URL, and the key one here being the file picker. So as we kind of saw in the tile one, you can create your own elements in here. So in the case of this one, it's a case of it using, instead of the icon picker, we're using the file picker. And then we're going to go through and we're going to choose the selected file and the ID for it, basically. If you wanted, which I alluded to before, to be able to actually upload content, either to a SharePoint document library, you can basically do that bit inside here. You can then update the option to true to allow it to show up in there, to false. So if I was to change hide local upload tab to false, we'll then get the option inside here. When I go to select file, you get the option here to be able to upload, but it won't actually do anything unless you then write the code in to say where you want it to save those pictures to. So as I mentioned, that's not there, but could be a task for someone if they're interested to kind of do that. So then, as before, we've got the show all heroes option, which says that we want to paginate it, and the other option is just to hide the first and the last one. So when it comes to rendering, it will basically call our hero web part, which is this one here. I know the naming is a little bit confusing. I initially named it hero web part, not really thinking that actually it's going to add a web part to it as well. So it's hero web part, and then over here hero web part. At that point, when I noticed I was a bit too far in, so I've left it as is. But basically, that will then call this code. This class will take in the information that's being sent, store it in the state. So we'll get the items variable, which stores all of the collection of items that we've chosen to display to the users. Depending on whether we choose for the information to be paginated, which is where we've selected show all heroes, it will fill that information from the items up here, but it will only select 5 items, because for the pagination, every time you click next item, it will load another 5 items from that list, which I'll show in a second here. So this bit here, once these states have been set, it will go through, and as I mentioned there, it will set the state item for the items paginated to the first 5 items inside there. It will also set how many pages it should be shown. So if there are 10 elements, then it's going to be 10 divided by 2, which is going to be 10 divided by 5, which is going to be 2 pages. If there were 14, it would be 14 divided by 5, which is going to be, and it will round it up, which will be 3 pages. And that just defines how many pages get shown at the bottom, which is basically going back this bit here. So that defines how many are actually available for you to click on. The get page bit is every time you click, which is just down here when it renders it, every time you click on the button to say the next item, this function will get called. That sends through the page that you've clicked on. So if this was 2, for example, instead of 1, 2, that will send page number 2 to that function, which is the get page one that we had up here. And inside there, all that does is it looks at the item array, which we're setting as item slice, and then it will take that page, because of the index, it's always 0, 1, so it will -1 from that, and then it will basically take the next 5 elements from whatever page you've clicked on, and it will then set those into the items paginated state, and that will then be sent through to the renderer to render those 5 elements. This next bit, if there's no item selected, like when we first add in the web part, it's interesting. Sorry, let me just refresh that. Typical demo. Okay, that's the first time that's happened. I'm not too sure why it's giving me a message there. We've done a change right before it, which has affected it. That shouldn't happen. I'll double check that. But if it doesn't, if it's a brand new web part you just added on, basically that just adds in 5 empty elements just so that you can see how it will look before you update. This bit here just says that if there's been any changes to the property screen, so when we're coming in and we're editing the information in here, that will just call the component did update, and it will refresh the items so that it re-renders it inside there. So key thing for the render, at this point, when you load the page, the information gets sent through to this bit, and it will start to render the items. If there's nothing in the state yet, because the state can take a little bit of time to generate it, it will hold off and it will go back and call them. It will then check down here to see if you've selected to show all of the items, so not just the first 5 available. If you've selected to show all, it will basically then send the items paginated, which is the list of the 5 items, depending on which page you've actually got visible on the screen. If it's not, then it will just only take the first 5 items. So it will slice the array and just show the first 5 items. It will then call the hero element, which is up in there. If you've selected the pagination, then it will add in that pagination option, which is this bit down here. If you haven't, then that basically will not get displayed, it will be hidden. So if we go onto the hero layout section, this is where it actually generates each of the items inside there. It also will look at how many items exist inside the array. and it will set the class depending on how many items are available. So if, for example, we go down to this one will show us, if I can get into it. Okay. There we go. So you see the class is set to hero3, and then that will dictate how they're displayed in a flex view. So if this changes to 2, for example, then they'll be side by side as 2 elements, like that. And if it's just 1, then it'll just show us one big one. And it will always try and fit the image into this space available, basically. So that's what happens here. That's how it knows how many items are being selected. It will then go through and create using the list, the built-in list. I don't know what to call that element. It will go and basically create our grouping of all the items inside there. As part of that, it will basically call on render cell, which will create each of those list items for us. And that's where inside here, it will loop through each of the items that we've got. They're separated into one container and then one container, so that this one has its own 1 element and this has 4 elements. So they're basically, it splits it, the first element, this one here, sorry. So it splits the first item inside there, and then for the second one, it splits the last 4 from the available 5. And then it generates the first container, which is this one, pulls out the information, such as the file name, the URL, the title, and then it then generates the next 4. So it maps through the 4 items that will exist in the second items, and then it will generate each of those under that. And that's pretty much it for how that kind of works. It's more of a template for people. If you want to do something similar, you've got some code to kind of base it off of. But any feedback or anything like that, please let me know. And I'm gonna stop talking there. So probably talked everyone's ears off.
No, that was great stuff. Thanks, Omar. Really very cool techniques and very nice layout of the code there. Folks were commenting on that. I think there might be a couple of questions in the chat for you.